Welcome back to New World Next Week. I'm James Corbett of CorbettReport.com.
And I'm James Evan Pilato from MediaMonarchy.com. Open up and don't worry, in the end, we will make them eat their fines. We have got that awesome story. Plus, of course, inaugural theater. But first, America's biggest owner of farmland is now, of course, Bill Gates. James, I don't know. It's possible you probably got this story sent to you even more than I had this story sent to me in the past week. This is one of those, I saw it in every place and all the emails, and this is the one. Bill Gates, and this comes from Forbes, of course. And remember, everything we talk about always included in your show notes. Bill Gates has been quietly snatching up 242,000 acres of farmland across the U.S., enough to make him the top private farmland owner in America. After years of reports he was purchasing agricultural land in places like Florida and Washington state, the Land Report reveals that Gates, who has a net worth of nearly $121 billion according to Forbes, has built up a massive farmland portfolio spanning 18 states. That's 69,000 acres in Louisiana, 47,000 in Arkansas, 20,000 in Nebraska. Additionally, he has a stake in 25,000+ acres of transitional land on the west side of Phoenix, Arizona, which they're going to turn into a new suburb. According to the Land Report's research, the land is held directly and through third-party entities like Cascade Investments. That's Bill Gates' personal investment vehicle. And this is where, like we did in the Media Monarchy community earlier this week, this is where you learn about even more things that you didn't know that Bill Gates owned. Cascade's other investments include food safety company Ecolab, and anybody in any kind of food service has used those products. There's also used car retailer Vroom and Canadian National Railway, just some of the other Cascade Gates investments. We will include the link to the original landreport.com. Bill Gates, America's top farmland owner. But there's other Gates news. There's other related sci-fi horror news, aka conspiracy fact, again from Forbes. Gates venture aims to spray dust into atmosphere to block the sun. And you thought it was just crazy conspiracy theorists talking about it. This is a Forbes editor's pick. They want you to know about all this. It's all just out in the open now. Microsoft billionaire founder Bill Gates financially backing the development of sun-dimming technology that would potentially reflect sunlight out of the Earth's atmosphere, triggering a global cooling effect. So it's not that solar minimum that we know is coming up. It's your technocrats. They did that. They're your gods. Like we talked about last week, Joe's going to crush the case-demic numbers. And sidebar, the World Health Organization today moved some of those Rona number goalposts exactly like we told you would happen on last week's New World Next Week. The Stratospheric Controlled Perturbation Experiment SCOPEX, launched by Harvard, aims to examine this solution by spraying non-toxic calcium carbonate, CaCO3, into the atmosphere, a sun-reflecting aerosol that may offset the effects of global warming. I mean, who knows? Crazier eugenics experiments have happened. James, it's just all out in the open now, right?
It is. And yes, thank you for pointing that out. Yes, I have had this story emailed to me a lot in the past week. So thank you to everyone who brought this story to my attention. But yes, I have seen it. And that is a good sign because it clearly shows people are keeping their eye out and can see when there is an important story that goes out, like this one that puts things into perspective. I want to head off at the pass the people who are going to start falling victim to the psyop that I've identified earlier. I want to warn people about again, it's a distraction psyop. Oh, Bill Gates and World Economic Forum and this kind of stuff, that's a distraction. No. It is not a distraction. I agree. I always say, I don't think Bill Gates is the ruler of the world. I don't think he's the top of the pyramid. But what he is doing through his foundation and through the money that is flowing through Gates, I don't think, again, he's the font of all of this, but it's coming through Gates. You can see the various spokes to the different parts of the agenda. And this is the agenda that they are bringing about. That's all part of the Sustainable Development Agenda 2030. All of this. It's all the same thing. They're just trying to brand it differently and put different faces on it. But you can see the agenda developing through moves like this one. Bill Gates becoming the largest owner of farmland in the U.S. Now that's That's interesting. And then you tie that in, yeah, okay, there's a stratospheric aerosol injection that he's helping to fund into existence. And, oh, and over here he's got his, well, it was the Beyond Meat investment that he strategically disinvested from quietly behind the scenes right before that stock crashed in 2017, was it? And then he got on the Impossible Foods bandwagon and is pushing that. So clearly involved in the synthetic food production. At the same time, he's becoming the largest owner of Farmland. At the same time, he's trying to literally manipulate the climate and the environment. At the same time that, as we, again, through who is Bill Gates, what I covered in that was the vaccine agenda, the public health agenda, the ID, the cashless society, all of these things. And now you start to see how they start to form a web, a picture. And nothing could be more blatant to the asleepest of the asleep normatin than putting this picture in front of them. That this man, who doubled his net worth during the decade of vaccine while giving away his fortune, he's such a generous philanthropist who doubled his wealth from 50 to 100 plus billion dollars in a decade, and however many tens of billions he earned just last year on the basis of the scamdemic that he helped bring about, is also the largest owner of Farmland, is also trying to re-engineer the food supply, is also literally trying to re-engineer the climate. It is cartoon level villainry that no one can deny. And I think this is a pretty good way to start to paint that picture for people in your life who don't see it. So do not dismiss this, as I'm starting to see some people doing, the hipsters of, oh, that's a distraction, man. The real story's over here. No, this is a good way of showing what the agenda is, and every spoke. So I'm going to throw in some links of what I just mentioned there, some of the different parts of this, so that people can get up to speed if they're not. But this is a good way, I would say, of starting to broach the conversation with people. Why is this multi-billionaire who keeps getting richer and richer, even as he's giving away his wealth, now the largest owner of Farmland, why is he re-engineering the climate? Why is he trying to take over food production? And why is he trying to bring in the vaccines and the scamdemic? And why is he involved in cashless payment systems in India and biometric ID? And it paints a picture, and I hope people are starting to see that picture. I probably should do another 2-hour documentary, again, just going through these different parts of the agenda that Gates is, again, just one window into.
Like you said, the cartoonish level. If this were a movie, it would feel hacky and lame to lots of people. They're like, Dr. Evil level parody. Oh, I get it. Like supervillain stuff.
Exactly. Lex Luthor couldn't be this outrageous. You would go, oh, that's stupid. No, yeah, the villain has one thing that they do, not everything. This is stupid.
Hey. Well, I mean, what a great inauguration day we've had over here in the States, you guys. What a great birthday for Jeffrey Epstein and his friends. It's a real shame he couldn't be there with him. God, James, I don't know. Maybe it's because, again, the longer you do this work, the longer you pay attention, the more you learn about these things. And maybe it's because I know more about these serial killers now as the years go by. This new administration is pretty horrifying looking so far. Think like the worst people: Janet Yellen running the money printers, all the CIA, CFR, Yaley ghouls you can imagine, a wretched hive of scum and villainy, to reference, of course, Disney movies. And again, as we've told you before, the next president will always be worse than the previous one. Biden's handlers pick Mr. Monsanto, Tom Vilsack, to head the USDA. And other farm news: Fox appointed guard of henhouse. Biden crime family just nominated one of Monsanto's best friends to head the USDA again. During his 8 years under Obama, Tom Vilsack, that's the former governor of Iowa and former America's Next Top President contestant, he earned the nickname Mr. Monsanto for approving more new GMOs than any agriculture secretary in history, and of course making tons of money in the process for everybody. Well, the gangsters involved. Not, of course, the farmers. The Organic Consumers Association basically compiled a list of all the GMOs we have to thank Vilsack for, but I edited it down to essentially kind of like a sampler of the greatest hits. See if any of these sound like they might be part of a larger agenda. Roundup Ready alfalfa, Monsanto's first GM perennial, went wild costing alfalfa growers millions. Monsanto's Drought Guard corn, yielding 11% less corn than conventional corn. Roundup Ready lawn grass, where Vilsack actually told the Scott's Miracle Grow Corporation, you don't need permits to sell GE grass commercially, it's cool. Vilsack allowed Syngenta to sell corn seeds with genetically engineered traits that were illegal in China to U.S. farmers, and the crop was rejected by markets, costing farmers $1.5 billion. Arctic apples don't turn brown, and also created using RNA interference technology. And finally, lab-made meat. Vilsack gave companies like Memphis Meat the green light to engineer cell-cultured meat without requiring USDA inspection or labeling. And even better, a former USDA staffer of his ended up lobbying for that Memphis Meat company. So there you go. China, RNA, lab-made meat. But if we go back to some classics, actually, on MediaMonarchy.com, August 21st, 2011, USDA signs with Rockefeller's Council of Foundations to exploit rural U.S., and the original question, possibly the first time I'd ever mentioned the guy's name on my website, October 2009, why are Monsanto insiders now appointed to protect food safety? So as we see this changing of the guard, and because Swamp Thing didn't do enough for Israel already, screw Julian Assange, screw Ross Ulbricht, Trump pardons Israeli Colonel Aviem Sella. That would be the convicted handler of Jonathan Pollard. Jonathan Pollard, of course, infamous Israeli spy, was pardoned by Obama in 2015 and, released from parole by the Trump administration in late 2020 so he could, of course, make the high holidays in Israel. Meet the new bosses, James, quite literally the same as the old bosses.
I, for one, think this is brilliant. Brilliant. I don't know if you've heard about it, James, but there's this new thing going around 4chan. There's this Exanon, and it turns out Biden is actually playing 57-dimensional Candyland with the deep state. And here's what's going to happen. So he's appointing Vilsack and all these just cartoon people to his administration so that people can look up what Vilsack has done in the past, and they'll know, they'll find out about what's really happening with Monsanto. And Exanon on 4chan is going to tell us all about it, man. This is so exciting. Trust the plan. Boom. Oh, wait, no, that's stupidity defined. And thankfully, I would like to welcome back all of the Trump train people to the reality-based community where, look, the government people are the evil people that are doing bad things, and it's all the swamp. They are all the swamp. And just as Trump was not appointing a mustachioed walrus of doom Bolton and 9/11 criminal Giuliani and all of these people as some sort of super hyper-dimensional chess moves that he was totally playing the deep statement, no, we have seen exactly what that was, and the stupid QAnon psyop garbage and all of that nonsense that was pushed on you year after year. Trust the plan, man. Release the Kraken. It's all happening on this date. I meant 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 this date. And now it's pushed off. I think I've heard now it's March is apparently when the military coup is going to happen and they're going to install Trump. Or I've heard the face swap. It was actually Trump. I mean, and I can't even tell what is a joke anymore and what people really believe because the nonsense has gotten that high. So anyway, yes, thank you for rejoining us in reality where, yes, the government is the problem. So what's the solution? Vote harder. I've already seen the articles. 2024, who's going to run? You know, what should the Republican strategy be for 2024, guys? Yay! Let's get right back on board that train. If you are still in that headspace, it was nice knowing you guys, but I am way beyond that. Anyway, yeah, let's point out, a lot of criminals, swamp, infesting Washington, D.C. Oh my God, I never would have imagined. And all of those powers that we were cheering on when it was the good, virtuous Trump, oh my God, Biden has those powers now. No! Just insanity, just stupidity. But yes, please follow the links to find out more about Vilsack and these creatures that are now inhabiting the Biden swamp that are absolutely going to be doing all the same kind of crap that they have been doing all this time under every administration. And to anyone who has managed to escape that stupid two-party mind control system and realize that no, you are not going to be saved by some anonymous something on 4chan that's secretly part of the good deep state that's enjoy the show, trust the plan, all of that nonsense. If you have escaped that, welcome. Thank you. Now let's start actually doing things in the real world. Let's start thinking about solutions and stop thinking about what the criminals are doing to us. Speaking of which...
Well, I thought you were going to say, I, for one, welcome our new ant overlords. We're going to toil in their sugar mines. James, it was fantastic. Before we go to even more good news for our final segment on This New World Next Week, episode 434, had a longtime Media Monarchy member actually reach out, message me and say, hey, do you know if there's anybody in my area in the States? I don't know about any kind of freedom cell action. And I was able to go into the Media Monarchy community, ask if anybody was in that area. Boom. Yes, there was. And now that connection has been made where there was none before. And that's again, just my own small part in that is fantastic. More good news to close out this 434 of New World Next Week. I am open. 50,000 Italian restaurant owners plan to ignore the lockdown. This coming from the fine folks at offguardian.org. Last Friday, January 15th, over 50,000, that's a lot of restaurants. 50,000 restaurants are planning to open, an act of mass civil disobedience against anti-COVID lockdown measures, which have massively hurt the restaurant business, especially, of course, small family-owned businesses. Spreading through social media under the hashtag I am opening in Italian, and we'll actually have the translations for all these different hashtags actually in your show notes. Movement is the largest countrywide act of civil disobedience since the lockdowns began. Italian opposition MP Vittorio Sgarbi has backed the movement, saying in an interview, which is in your show notes, it is in Italian, but fortunately we do have some translations, and the translations are delicious. Open up and don't worry. In the end, we will make them eat their fines. Italy's government already facing internal conflict and crisis. An early election is a possibility. A similar movement already started in Mexico 3 days before it did in Italy. The I Am Open protest spreading across Europe as well. So that's Italy, that's Europe, that's Mexico. Hundreds of restaurants in Mexico opened, gathering to protest against the lockdowns. Variants taking hold in German-speaking Switzerland, which has its own German hashtag, and Poland as well. And as Off Guardian notes, it is good to be reminded that no matter how it looks like the new normal is spreading unopposed, it's not. People all over the world are resisting where they can. And of course, where you can is where I think you should. It would have to happen, again, James, with the things that you're personally involved in. Wouldn't go get involved in some other industry you don't know nothing about. Change starts at home, I believe, as the saying goes. The other bit of good news, Massachusetts rescinds flu vaccine mandate in important victory. Why did they rescind it? Because of massive outcry and pushback. James, what do we call it? The This Week in Tyranny or This Week in Tyranny pushback?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And maybe that's going to, let's hope that's going to be the theme for this year. Absolutely. This is what the resistance, this is what the uprising looks like. And I hope people appreciate exactly what you were saying there, that, yeah, it is happening. We don't have to think about it or wish for it. It is happening. We have to highlight that, support it, and participate in it in order to push it through to its logical conclusion, which is, ? Well, if people have been following my recent newsletter series that I talked about yesterday when I was talking about being blocked on YouTube, I did highlight my newsletter series that I'm writing over the past couple of weeks. It'll be finishing up this weekend on the year ahead. And the last one was on Part 2 biosecurity, and that included a section where I talked about the 5 different possibilities for when will the scamdemic end, including some very specific dates I have in there that might be interesting to read about. But the 4th possibility was probably the bleakest and the darkest, is that it will never end, and they will continue to use this in one form or another for the rest of our natural lives as, there may be a new pandemic breaking out, blah, 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 with biosecurity state never ending. But the 5th possibility for when the scamdemic will end is the scamdemic is over when we say it's over. When we stop complying, when we disobey orders, when we stop watching from the sidelines while people get manhandled by the Calgary police for daring to play pond hockey, when we stop looking at the horrific videos of people getting raided for having too many people in their home and muttering our concern before turning back to our regularly scheduled programming, when we say no more and mean it, that is when the scandemic ends, and that is definitionally true, but it does require a mass of people doing it in a way that cannot be ignored. And people may say, but won't that lead to confrontation? They'll come after you if you resist. Yes. Do you see a way out of this that doesn't involve some sort of confrontation or some sort of resistance, disobeying? I don't see that. At the very, very, very best, if people push back hard enough and the scamsters don't feel that they're in a position of power and control, they may do what they often do, which is step back. Okay, don't worry, we'll release you. You guys can go and play a little bit. We'll regroup. They often do that whenever there's a serious pushback. They'll let people, okay, no, don't worry. It's a war of attrition. They'll come back later, but they'll let you off with it. And that may be the best that we can get away with at this point, but it will involve confrontation at some point. So yes, the resistance is starting. The only question is, are you going to be part of it, and how so? And as you say, I think that's another important thing to highlight. You personally can probably only affect what you personally are involved in. You can go try meddling in some other industry or something else that you're not part of, but that's probably not going to be very effective. But you are involved in things in your own life that you can affect and you can make decisions about. And look, everyone has to approach resistance in their own way, and everyone has their own things, and they've got family or whatever. They've got a million different personal things that affect their decisions, but this is what the resistance looks like. The uprising is happening, and don't rely on the media to report it for you, because they're not gonna. The dinosaur media is not going to tell you about the resistance or highlight it or applaud it, obviously, so that's going to be the work of people out there. So more so, I appreciate hundreds of people sending me links to Bill Gates being the largest farmland owner. I do appreciate that. I wish people were that active about sending me things about, hey, did you hear in my local community, this guy, opened his restaurant or whatever. Those little acts of resistance are important. They are meaningful. They can change the game, and let's highlight them when we see them.
I had somebody write who's actually down here in New Mexico as well. We have not met up yet in real life. But they had actually kind of a sort of simple idea for stores, and we've had a bunch of this down in New Mexico, where there's capacity issues. So, of course, you got a bunch of people lined up outside in winter, for your health and stuff. Somebody wrote in with an idea of what if you basically sort of like a flash mob with no connections. You don't talk to anybody. You don't act like you're in on anything. You all get into the store and you never leave. You just continue to shop on, and eventually the lineup outside will continue to get bigger and bigger, and the stores will have to go, oh my God, those people are pissed.
That happened. They were doing that in Utah. I'll get Brock to put video of that in there. That's already been happening, but again, you won't hear about it because the media, there was a little bit of demonization. Look at these evil protesters, these masked, they're going to be super spreaders. There was a little bit of demonization, but they generally kept it hush-hush, but that's already happened. I want to see a lot more of that.
That's pretty awesome. See, again, much like inventions and things, 5 people are inventing radio at the same time. These are amazing freaking times, James. We are, I think, lucky, fortunate, all those different things to be in this and to be involved and to be able to be doing this show for as long as we have been. So as we mention at the end of these episodes, we've been using for the last probably half a year my New Mexico post office box, since they're completely kicking us off the internet because, they're so fair and loving. My New Mexico post office box for support for James Corbett for New World Next Week for people who don't do the digital money thing. As, of course, Baby Bush said, just send your cash or check made out to James Evan Pilato, and we'll keep doing it. James?
Now, we should probably, before we go, address an elephant in the room, which is that if you're listening to this and you have noticed nothing different in the way that you're listening to this, congratulations, ding, 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 you win. You win the info war. You've just earned your stripes. You're now a lieutenant. Good job. Because that means that you are not relying on GooTube for your information. So good. Yes, you're already above the fray. You're above 95% of the population. Awesome. Good job. If you are lost in GooTube land. Hey, where's New World Next Week this week? It's not on the Corbett Report YouTube channel. Oh, it's on the Corbett Report Extras channel. What's that? Why is it over there? Oh, do I have to go to a different channel to watch this now? What's going on? Then, unfortunately, you are not ready for your stripes. You are still in private. And what can I say? Yes, I have been blocked from uploading to my main Corbett Report YouTube channel for 1 week, probably 6 days by the time you're hearing this. At any rate, as we record this, I'm still able to upload to my Extras YouTube channel, so I'm just using this to ring the alarm bell. Please stop watching on YouTube. I am not joking. It is going down, and just in the past 12 hours, I just got notice as I'm shocked, amazed that it lasted a month. But yes, the future of vaccines is no longer on YouTube. Goodbye. That half hour, great. I think it was the best possible way I could encapsulate that information. Why you should not take this vaccine unquestioningly. Why this might be a bad idea. Ringing that bell. Gone from YouTube. Like that. Okay, well, it's still up. It's still up on my site. It's on mine. It's on library. It's everywhere else. It's no longer on YouTube. So that means I know it's going to be harder to send it to normies in your life. You're sending me a link to, what's this? LBRY? That doesn't sound like a real site. It's not YouTube. I'm not going to watch it. Oh, well, those people are going to be lost. But all of the Corbett Report information is going to go down that memory hole on YouTube at some point in the near future. Who knows? Maybe sooner than later. Anyway, just the 8,000th reminder. So again, if you are watching and listening to this and you didn't even notice anything different, awesome. You are on the Vanguard. If you are not yet on the Vanguard, please go to CorbettReport.com. Please go to MediaMonarchy.com. Subscribe to our feeds there. Follow our work. And find the other ways that you can find it, or you will lose it forever. You have been warned.
James, that's how I do it. I mean, I just have bookmarked. I've got thelastamericanvagabond.com feed bookmarked. I've got CorbettReport.com/feed and even my own. That's how I run my show. And as again, I sometimes joke with you that, like, oh man, people didn't know you had a big giant beard, because we actually just do the audio version of Corbett Report in the radio kingdom of Media Monarchy. James, what a bizarre time. What a strange months of stuff. And again, you and I, kind of messaging the other night, and I'm like, dude, do you have it backed up? You know how I feel about archives of media being nuked and disappearing. You are on top of the backup situation as much as you're able to be.
As much as I can, yeah. But I'll have enough to be able to say to my son, yeah, I really did have 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, son. Trust me. Anyway, whatever. It's going, almost gone. So keep that in mind, everyone. And I'm just glad you're here listening to this, because, again, that means you're winning.
Absolutely. So after 433 episodes, our 434th has to get put on the B channel. James, it obviously means something. The amount of effort they put in to stop people like us saying things and talking about ideas. I don't see them kicking off. Maybe they are. I don't see them kicking off all the flat earthers, all the weird. Again, because if they can get you asking the wrong questions, they don't have to care about what the answers are. James, I appreciate you, buddy.
I appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate everyone out there for supporting it. Couldn't do it without you. Talk to you again next week.
All right. Take care.